then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. If you simply want to watch the meeting, we encourage you to watch this streaming on the city's YouTube channel. You can access it at meridiancity.org/live. With that, let's begin with the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Wheeler.
Present.
Commissioner Grove.
Here.
Commissioner McCarville.
Here.
Commissioner Lorcher.
Here.
Commissioner Yearsley.
Here.
Commissioner Seal.
Here.
Absent is Commissioner Casanelli.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. With that, we have Quartet South Subdivision H 2021-0088 and Verona Live Work H 2021-0080 will be open for the sole purpose of continuing to a regular scheduled meeting. They will be open for that purpose only. So if there's anybody here tonight to testify for those particular applications, we will not be taking testimony this evening. We will also be hearing a motion for Machava Village Subdivision H 2021-0067 to be withdrawn. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, you are correct. I missed one. We also have, look at my notes here. Jamestown Ranch Subdivision H 2021-0074 will also be opened only for continuance. Now, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. For the consent agenda, we have one item on the consent agenda. That's to approve the meetings of the January 6th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So
Mr.
moved.
Chair, I move to accept or adopt the consent agenda.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So the public hearing process. This time I'll explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case and respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant has finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called on only once during their public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up on our website in advance to testify. You will then be unmuted in Zoom, or you can come to the microphones in chamber. Please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation to the meeting, it will be displayed on screen and our clerk will run the presentation. If you have established that you are speaking on behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who may wish to testify. If you wish to speak on the topic, you may come forward in chambers, or if on Zoom, press the raise hand button in the Zoom app. Or if you are only listening on a phone, please press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you are listening on multiple devices, such as a computer or and phone, please be sure to mute the extra devices so we do not experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you are finished, if the commission does not have any questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant has finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make a final decision or recommendations to City Council as needed. At this time, would like to open the public hearing for Quartet South Subdivision H 2021-0088 for continuance.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley, go ahead.
I move we continue file number H 2021-0088 to the hearing date of February 3rd, 2022.
Second.
All right. Let me get to my notes here. It's moved and seconded. It's moved and seconded to continue file number H 2021-0088 Quartet South Subdivision to the date of February 3rd, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll now open Verona Live Work H 2021-0080 for continuance.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
do you maybe want to check the itinerary for February 3rd? It feels like we had a pretty big stack on there already. You want it, both of them?
Say we discussed previously, and I think February 3rd is
Okay.
kind of where we landed on it.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Yeah, February 3rd is, should be better than the 17th.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Easley.
I move that we continue application H 2021-0067 to the hearing date of February 3rd, 2022. Oh, sorry, I'm the wrong one. Sorry, 0080. My apologies.
Do you have a second?
Second.
It is moved and seconded to continue file number H 2021-0080 Verona Live Work to the date of February 3rd, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We'll now open file number H 2021-0067 for the Machava Village subdivision. We would like to get a motion to accept the applicant's request to withdraw.
So moved.
Okay. And
Second.
it has been moved and seconded to accept the applicant's request to withdraw on file number H 2021-0067. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. We'll now open Jamestown Ranch Subdivision H 2021-0074 for continuance. I believe we discussed the date of February 17th.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
let me give this a try here. That I move to continue file number H 2021-0074 to the hearing date of February 17th. Is that what the hearing date that we were looking at for that one? Okay. For the fall, yeah, just move it to the hearing date of February 17th,
2022.
2022.
Okay, it is moved moved and seconded to continue file number H 2021-0074 Jamestown Ranch Subdivision to the date of February 17th, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay. Now I'd like to open the public hearing item for item number H 2021-0071, Lennon Point Community, which was continued from 12/2/2021. We will begin with staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I'm not sure if you want me to go into much detail with the existing, or I should say the plan, considering we've seen this before. I guess just quickly, the site is about 8.8 acres of land, currently zoned RUT. It's located at the southeast corner of Linder and Ustick. The applications before you tonight are annexation zoning, a preliminary plat, and a conditional use permit. A private street application was also submitted with the application, but that is administrative approval from the director/staff. At the previous hearing, the commission continued the project for the following reasons: to create a better solution to the transition between the proposed multifamily building and the neighborhood to the east. And I guess for reference, this is the previous site plan. Secondly, to modify the attached units along the east boundary of the site to be front-loaded instead of facing the east. And also to revise the plat to match any changes to the overall conceptual site plan. There were some other nuanced discussions that occurred and even some specifics, but don't want to go into too much detail right now. Following the commission hearing in December, the applicant sent me revised plans last week, to which I wrote a staff memo to the commission dated January 14th. So I hope you all were able to read that. That has much more of the detail in it and outlines the specific conditions and provisions that I recommend revising based on the new site plan, which is this one. So quickly, the changes that they made was along the east boundary, they changed the design of these to be front-loaded. So they're just matching the required setbacks on the east side, which in the R15 zone is a 12-foot rear setback. On the revised plan, they are showing that the buildings are approximately 18.5 feet from the rear property line, though that's not a setback, it's just where the building is. They added the required covered parking here. They removed this cut-through area between the commercial and the multifamily because there was a point of discussion regarding some issues there. They also changed the multifamily units here. They are no longer 4 stories. They are proposed as 3-story units, and they removed the end unit altogether rather than just stepping it down to 2 stories. So now this gap is approximately 44 feet between the fence line and the building. I have some revised elevations of those 3-story units as well. They also moved the dog park from the southeast area of the site to the southwest area of the site to be further away and part of the larger open space area. They also removed one of the townhome lots on the west side here. It used to be 6. They removed 1 in order to pull it out of the floodway and then also include a new drive aisle here to connect the private street with the entrance off of Linder. This is not something that was necessarily discussed, but in the grand conversation of cut through traffic and making sure residents as well as commercial have specific areas to go, I believe that's why the applicant proposed that. It's not required by code, but as I noted in my memo, commission can agree or disagree, and the proposed provision for that is open-ended, so it'll work either way. They also added a 10-foot multi-use pathway here, which was discussed by Mr. Chair as to connect to the other segment of it. And lastly, they made this lot match the minimum lot size requirements. So they covered most of what was discussed at the previous commission hearing. And if there are any questions, I will stand for those now.
Okay, would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Wheeler, 2923 North Arthur Circle, Boise, Idaho, 83703. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you again for taking a second look at this property and this proposal. Who do I have?
Yeah, but I got to find your presentation.
So as Joe was saying on our previous hearing, it was concluded that we were about 90% there. Everyone liked the site plan, needed a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of massaging to get it over that hump and overcome a couple of hurdles and some objections that were brought up, which were valid. And we feel that we've addressed each and come up with a solution that solves those problems and provides more housing for the city of Meridian in a comprehensive way in the mixed use community zone. As Joe was saying, a couple of the edits that were, the factors that were brought up as issues were primarily centered around traffic and circulation and building height and privacy. So to address the circulation, and we can point to the slide when I get there in a minute, but the access commingling circulation of the residents through the commercial was a primary concern. And so providing that 20-foot private drive will allow residents to go directly to Linder without ever having to circulate through the commercial. And as well as, here we go. Is there a full screen on that? Okay, well, we'll roll with this. So this is the view of coming into the property from the west, and we'll get more into the renderings. So let's look at, just to familiarize everyone with the existing conditions, which I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this image shows the intricate connection or network of local streets which provide multiple access points onto Linder and Ustick. Couple challenges with the site, with the Kellogg Drain, the floodway, the arterial streets, and getting access onto those, onto there, bringing in the connection of the local streets and the existing single family on the east. Those are the primary concerns with the site, challenges to design within. View images looking north on Linder. This is looking southeast at the crease and lateral and the 5 Mile drain. Crease and lateral. That kind of flip through here quickly. This is the existing single family development to the east. Joe, is there a way to remove that red? Oh, it's just on this. Oh, okay. Here's a view looking at off of Pebblestone, looking west. And then the northeast corner, the existing single family and the height differential, which we'll get into a little bit later. There are 3 zones of the commercial in the upper left, multifamily in the upper right, and then residential in the main part in the bottom. And this graph shows or image shows the rerouting of the Kellogg Drain underground and the floodway in the southwest corner. The public road that is coming through the site, that's a requirement of ACHD, and all of the roads would be private. So we can talk on the site plan here for a minute. In addressing the traffic and circulation, so we provided that 20-foot drive to allow residents to have direct access onto Linder and not have to circulate through the commercial space. We do have signage on there to dissuade commercial users from pulling into the site. That would be residents only, no through traffic type of signage. And then coming off of Ustick through Building A in the upper right, we closed off that drive aisle connection as well. And we also do provide signage as you're entering that, so users won't take an early right and thinking they're going to the commercial. There'll be signage there saying resident only, no through access. And as far as the building height issue, Building A was redesigned. We went from 4 stories to 3. We completely lost the eastern unit and made that a pedestrian plaza. So another additional amenity to the project. We redesigned the building to be flat apartments. Was before they were 2-story units. So now they're just 9-unit buildings, 3 units on each level, with 2 and 3 bedroom and a 1-bedroom in the middle, primarily because of daylight with the 1-bedroom unit. And we went with single unit garages. On the east side for the single family, we provided a little bit wider units to allow a front entry door and have that front loaded. So the rear of that on the far east is just a backyard. So we got rid of that walkway, which was previously encouraging more traffic and eyeballs and just more people on that side and less privacy. So this provides more privacy. And then we moved the dog park, which was brought up in our last meeting, that the dog park was kind of small and tight when we had it in the southeast corner. We moved that over to the southwest corner, and the dog park fence would share the fence. That's a requirement of Nampa Meridian Irrigation District to block off the crease and laterals. So that'll just be a continuation. That'll be part of that larger dog park. And then Building B on the west, we moved that up and lost one lot. So if we look at open space, this actually increased by about 3,000 square feet with the addition of the pedestrian plaza in the northeast corner and losing the lot on the west end from Building B. Our parking, we're still well over the required. At the commercial, we're required 24 stalls and we're providing 25. At the multifamily, we're required 33 and we're providing 35. And at the single family, we're required 173 and we're providing 197. Here's an image of the aerial site. So I won't spend too much time on the building design since this is the second time we've addressed this project. This is the commercial building, be metal panel, concrete masonry, and concrete wainscot on the bottom with and mostly glass. Is this being a drive-through use? And this is the second building, the smaller commercial, which is intended to be a sandwich shop, ice cream parlor. It could be multiple uses to serve that community. This is the view looking south. This is Ustick. So you're seeing building A, the 2 building A's on the left, and then the commercial on the right. And then here's a view looking south at the commercial corner. This is sitting on the northwest corner. And here's a view showing that mu throughout the middle of the site and commercial on the right. These are the floor plans for building A, which would have a corridor on the back on the second and third level. That is how those tenants would ingress and egress the units, with garages on the ground level with direct access. And then on the elevation, this elevation is slightly different than the one Joe showed earlier. We had modified the patios to angle those roofs down to not only reduce the height and the appearance of the height, but also provide a little more articulation along U-stick and a little more rhythm. Here's a enlarged view of that plaza showing that 44 feet to the building. And then again, this is a similar slide we looked at before with the grading plan, whereas the existing grade is at 2575 for the single family home. And we're proposing a finished grade at 2572. So we are already 3 feet below the existing single family. And here's a view of that plaza and building A. So this would be in the northeast corner. This is entering the site from West Pebblestone. And then here's an image showing that resident only signage. It's kind of small to see in here, but that white sign on the left. So to prevent any circulation of commercial users from going through the drive aisle and intending to go to the commercial space. This is looking at that U-stick entry looking north. And building B, we have 5 lots. And the materials were changed a little bit in this to provide some shake siding and just a little bit different of a design aesthetic, which will be further refined in design review. Here's an image of that. And this also shows the 10-foot bike path addition on the western boundary to try to get pedestrian traffic off of Linder as much as possible and connect to the existing bike path in the northeast corner, northwest corner of that intersection. And this is looking at the sitting in the southwest corner looking north. Building C, these were widened slightly, as Joe mentioned, to meet the minimum lot size requirements and dropped to a 2-story unit from a 3-story unit that was previously proposed. And here's a view of that building C on the right and then the dog park on the left. An aerial view of that southwest corner. And then we have our elevations of the single family 2-story units. And this is the image of through the mu in the center of the site. So this is providing a lot of connectivity between residents and allowing residents to interact with one another and not have everything be on garages. View of that same space. And these are the 3 single family homes in the southeast corner. And this was where we previously had the dog park, which is now removed. So it's just additional open space, which is very usable and a nice scale for more of a intimate uses, the picnic outside, whatever you might want to space. Again, similar to the northeast corner on the grades, the existing grades are at 2575 and our proposed grades are 2572. So here as well, we're 3 feet below the adjacent homes. This section shows what Joe was mentioning about us, our 18-foot, 8-inch setback to the building. And then our second-story patios are actually 22 feet back, as well as 3 feet below. So there's ample separation between there. And with the removal of the pathway that previously was there, this will be a lot more quiet, landscaped, and provide more privacy. As the view of the east end looking west. View of the south looking north. And a view of the west side looking east. And there you can see that 20-foot drive that connects to the access point to the commercial. With that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the applicant or staff at this point?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
the existing farmhouse, do you own the entire parcel, your developer?
Yes.
The existing farmhouse that is there, is it going to be destroyed or is it going to be moved?
That's in discussions right now. We haven't made a final decision.
My second question is that I trolled Zillow a little bit. And yesterday, the parcel at the corner of 1.47 acres at Houston and Linder came up for sale. How does that work into the development?
Repeat that question.
So Zillow, so I get notifications when properties go up for sale in Meridian, just because I'm curious.
Yeah.
And so the corner parcel, 1.47 acres at the corner of Blue Stick and Linder, the northeast corner or southeast corner, which is yours, came up for sale.
You're talking about the corner of our property. the
Right.
Site.
Where
A.
you have the commercial building.
Yeah, yeah.
So are you selling that off or is it part of your development?
Well, it's part of the development. The intent is to potentially find a buyer that would want to put a different use in there. We're open right now. What use is actually going to go in there? So it's exploring options at this point.
I mean, it did say commercial vacant land for sale.
Yeah.
And so,
And the intent would be that whatever does go in there, whether our client builds it or another client does, that it would meet the requirements set by the commission, city council, as well as going through a CUP and higher level.
I was just kind of curious when I saw this come up for the agenda tonight, and then I also saw that for sale. I was wondering how that was all tied together. Thank you.
Any more questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, this time we will take public testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, we have one person signed in, and that's Karen Bittler.
Good.
Karen Bittler. I live at 3055 Northwest 13th Street in Meridian. Okay, hello,
Yep,
everybody.
go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. My concerns with the suggestions are as followed. The townhomes that are proposed for the east side of the development, we still feel that they should be single family detached homes or patio homes to alleviate density. Also, the mixed-use plan will increase traffic, noise, congestion, pollution, crime, and we suggest you limit to residential the detached homes, patio homes. Also, the mixed use should only be considered for 40-acre parcels, of which this is not. One commissioner mentioned the 8-acre parcel should not be considered for this project. That means 8 acres would not support the mixed-use development, and I just want you guys to do what's right only. Also, both commissioners, Yearsley and Castanelli, stated their support for detached homes and patio homes on the 8-acre parcel on December 2nd. And we support developing these types of homes. And also the patio homes can attract another demographic, which would be the older group. And I think that would be attractive to the area. Also, negative impacts would be in perpetuality. That's why we suggest the single family homes. Also, they're also building townhomes just a few blocks away on Ustick, and also a big development is going in on the northeast corner of Linder and Ustick. And also, we're concerned about building close to the flood zone. I know that you guys have discussed it, but I just wanted to say that our neighbors are feeling the same way. And also, the person that owned the property next to the farm, I did go to his house after our meeting during Christmas time, and I did speak with him directly, and he was very upset. He was not for what was going on. He knew things would happen, but he wasn't happy about it. I asked why he didn't show. He said he was busy, so that's how it goes. Also, we're concerned about the flood zone as evidenced on the map that I provided you people. And it was provided by the public works staff. And also, Creason Creek was built on existing farmland, and it's expected that all the homes would receive a high groundwater. And that affected our crawl spaces of our entire community. We've come to realize that all communities that are built or will be built on existing farmland will have the problem of high groundwater. Although the corner of the upper edge of my lot is not in the flood zone per se, we did have flooding. And also my neighbors to the north of us who are not in a flood zone, they had worse flooding and everything was addressed. But basically, I know they want to pipe the Kellogg drain, which is in the flood zone, which there's extreme concern for these any and all buildings, because you really shouldn't build anything in that area. And the last thing I wanted to say that it makes no sense to have any kind of construction in a flood zone. And it says to utilize it as open space. And when you still look at what he did and you compare what I sent, and this was from Andrew Korn, who is in charge of flooding. And he even said he didn't understand why things were being built in this flood zone. So that just raised extreme concern. And when I put this over the architect's revised drawing, you could still see in the red thatched area, he still has homes, townhomes. I'm not saying that we should have single-story homes, as he mentioned before. I said single-family detached dwellings, which means they could be two-story, they could be one-story, but to be detached. And I just hope that you can consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody else signed up?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
Go, come right up. Just need to have you state your name and address for the record. And
Yes,
the
my
floor
name
is
is Carissa Sinden. I live at 914 North 8th Street, apartment B4 in Boise, 83702. Okay, hello. My parents used to own this property, so I grew up on that corner, and I listened remotely to the hearing last time, and I just wanted to give my perspective as to what my family has experienced with the growth in Meridian, and I'm definitely for this development. And a lot of the things that people were saying last time is traffic. The complaints were traffic, losing views, quality of life, etc. When I grew up there in the early 80s, there was a two-way stop signs on Ustick and Linder. So there was no stoplights or anything, and we used to have a barn. That barn is now gone because of the widening of the road. And my parents have moved about 15 years ago because of the traffic, because they lost their views. Their quality of life was diminished. You can't have a farm life there anymore. So I just wanted to give that perspective because I think it's inevitable that the land will be developed. That's just the way Meridian is going right now. And I think that the development that they have proposed with the open space and the dog park, and I think they're being very thoughtful about it, and it will provide housing. I think it's good. And I just wanted to let you know that perspective, because I'm a native Idahoan, been here for 40 years, and we used to have a farm there, and there is not a farm there anymore. So thank you very much.
Thank you. On up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Pamela Stinnett, 3036 Northwest 13th Street in Meridian. And I'm not impacted by people viewing into my backyard as I'm on the other side of the street, but I see that the housing is encroaching on the people that are right across the street from me. My issues, though, go beyond that. They go further than just the impact on our development, because we're one of many developments, but it's going to impact all the other developments, including the other one that's growing across the street. Because as it is, getting out of the subdivision is really tough. Fighting if you have to go out, you can't go out on the dirt without flying. And if you try to go, if you come out of Fourth Street, it's also very difficult. Wiggle through and go through Crossfield. It's still not much better than your problem is.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just put it higher. Sorry. Didn't stop to think that she was shorter than I was. Anyway, so the problem that I have is traffic in the surrounding areas, because you have all these other developments. Another problem I have, which I don't think many people really thought much about, because the gentleman that talked about the school said, well, they're at 20% now, but they could see themselves being okay at 80. Well, with all the developments going in, the school's not going to be at 80. It's going to be over. It's going to be impacted greatly. So you're going to have a lot of kids putting a lot of burden on that school. And I honestly think that's going to impact the quality of their education. And those kids are going to be some kids from our neighborhood as well as the new development. Additionally, I want to make sure if this development goes through whether as planned or if you make adjustments to it, are we going to be able to walk through their dog park, or is that going to be, there going to be limitations? Because, to me, that precludes us easily going, we have to go all the way around to go to another park or to walk down the street going, around if that's going to be an issue. And it just seems to me that there should not be a limitation on who can use that open space. So those are the main things, but I do think it's going to impact the quality of life, safety issues, traffic issues. When I first moved in 3 years ago, I could get to Cole Road and Franklin in 15 minutes easy, sometimes 12. Now it takes me 45. And it's just going to get worse. And I don't expect it to stay perfect, but I do think that my time is up. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Do you have anybody else in chambers who would like to come forward? No? Nobody online raising their hand?
I don't see anybody, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Would the applicant like to come back forward?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a couple comments first, just to clear up some of the.
Absolutely, please do.
Regarding the floodplain and floodway, yeah, but like 90% of the site is in some kind of flood zone. That's why I know that this property hasn't been developed, because it's going to take a lot of work to get it out of there. However, what they're going to do with the crease and lateral and piping the Kellogg drain will immediately change that entire facet of that, which is good for the neighboring sites as well. There's also a geotech that was done and specific construction recommendations within that, which we have a condition already in there that says that they have to meet those specific recommendations. So we should be handled on that. I have full faith that we will monitor that as we do with any project that's in the floodway. There was another point and I forgot. I'll come back around.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. That's very helpful on the details as always. So to address a couple of these issues, it's to speak about the floodway. I mean, first of all, yes, we are dealing with a site that is challenging and it has taken a lot of creativity and thought and time to put a solution that's viable here. We are staying completely out of the floodway and we are designing the homes to be a foot above the base flood elevation. So that's how we're addressing the flood concerns. As far as the detached homes on the east, Joe, can we pull up my presentation there? I just want to get to one of those beginning slides. While Joe's pulling that up, the comment was that height doesn't matter, that it's the width and being detached. When we pull up a map here, you'll see that the existing single family lots are about just as wide as two of our lots as is. So we're no much wider in our single structure than the existing homes that are there, which are 2 stories in some cases as well, and much wider than what we're proposing. So I feel that from a massing perspective, we're aligned to what is already existing on the eastern boundary. Regarding the use of the site, just to move on to that point, back to the very beginning here. Yeah, so you can see on the right, those black lines on the very far edge are the property lines of the existing single family and approximately, encompass 2 of our lots. So to put a visual for that. As far as regarding the use of the area, that'll be determined at a later point through an HOA of how that'll be managed, whether the dog park will be open, whether the play structures will be open. At a minimum, the 10-foot pedestrian path, which we already had provided, and then we've extended that further to the northeast or northwest to the bike parking, would be available and usable by anyone. So that is a part that would be used for anyone in the site. Not to mention any of the commercial uses that go in there. That would could become a very viable, desirable place to go for the existing residents. I would just urge that the council take consideration to this development and consider the challenges that we've ran into, the needs of the city of Meridian for housing, and the time, effort, energy, and thought that's gone into this project to bring something that's going to solve a complex problem in a sophisticated way. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Joe, did you remember what you forgot?
Yeah, it was regarding the dog park, just to say that the multi-use pathway, as Andrew covered, will be shared for sure regionally, but the use of the open space typically is not shared between developments, only because only one HOA is paying for that area and to maintain that area, the same as these residents won't be able to use the Creason Creek open space. Technically, does it happen? Sure, I'm sure it does, but that's just typically how it goes. Okay, but if the such HOA wants to do that, they are more than welcome to keep that open. But again, that's not usually something that the city puts their hands in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I should have asked, did you have a question? No? More questions? Okay. This time, can I get a motion to close the public hearing for item number H 2021-0071?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for item number H 2021-0071. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Comments?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
So much as the concerns that were brought up, I'm not as concerned on the floodplain issue because I know that there's going to be like staff has said about the engineering, the requirements and things of that nature on that. Plus the developer doesn't want to put his money into something that's going to be sunken later and he's trying to get a return out of it. So I know that they're going to do what they can in order to build it up and take care of those issues with that. The transitional piece on the eastern side with the townhomes, I think that that makes a nice little segue or transitional part on the eastern side of the property as it goes from some commercial there next to if you count the decel lanes, 6 lanes over into a residential subdivision there. That seems to be a good use of that eastern side of it. And I like the use of that open space and creative with the dog park in that cornered area there. That's going to be interesting, especially with the way that they're also tying it into the pathways there. So this seems to be a good project that, you know, for corner of 6 lanes by 6 lanes with stoplights and everything, it seems like it's a good use of space.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Mr. Chair.
Chair.
Commissioner Lorcher, I think you were first.
I will agree with Commissioner Wheeler's. This is going to be developed like everybody has said. It would be nice that everybody was 100% in agreement. All 4 corners are going to be residential with a little bit of commercial into it. And as long as the floodplain issues are have been resolved and there's connectivity with the pathways, going opposite direction on either Linder and Ustick is always going to be a problem unless more lights are done. I know I go out of my way to turn right and not try to turn left at any given time, even if it means going around the block for safety reasons, because people just jut out from everywhere. Sometimes it could be inconvenient, but it could also be a safety concern. But the transition, I agree with Commissioner Wheeler from 12th Street and 13th Street over to that with those building lots. Seems like it.
Commissioner Grove, if you want to jump in.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Chair, a couple of thoughts that I have on this. I appreciate the changes that the applicant made in coming back to us with a revised plan. It looks like they put some real thought into how to address the concerns that we had, and they were able to do it in a way that I hadn't fully foreseen, and I like the changes. I think that open space is very large for a development of this size, and it looks great, kind of coming off that arterial road and being able to see that large open space. The future land use map shows this as mixed use, and I think this is a good way to show that intent of what the future land use map shows as mixed use. Getting a diversity of housing types in there is a great option. I think we need to have those options as we continue to grow. You know, when I moved here from Boise years ago, I moved here because it was a great, we had all the awards for being a great family city, a place for families to move and raise and grow your family. And I think having those options of different types of houses, different price points, things like that, really help build the strength of our community. So I applaud them in the types of choices that they made for this. I also think that the movement that they put for traffic for the commercial space makes a lot of sense. And they've really done a good job of both separating and integrating at the same time. So I'm in favor of this project.
Commissioner Yearsley, Commissioner McCarville, anything to add? Any motions to be made?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley, go ahead.
I think they did a fairly decent job trying to meet most of the concerns. I for me personally, I just don't like it. I guess it comes down to personal preference. I think they should have put single-family homes, at least on the east side, to provide a better transition. But overall, I think it works, and I won't. I'll just leave it at that.
Commissioner McCarville? Ready.
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the city council of file number H-2021-0071 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of December 2nd, 2021, or January. Wait, damn.
That's my fault.
Yeah, let's do January 17th, 2022. With no-
January 20th, 2022.
It's 20. One more time.
20th? You want the 20th? I'm just picking days up. January 20th, 2022.
It's almost like it's the last time you're going to do that.
Almost.
I
Second.
second that, I think.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2021-0071.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Sorry,
Joke.
real quick, just want to make sure with Kurt, do they need to include with the modifications of my memo in there?
Yeah, I understood the motion to incorporate that, but maybe I'll ask the maker of the motion. Was that your intent?
To include all of the staff notes.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2021-0071. To include the staff notes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Got that? Okay.
For the record, Commissioner Yearsley, was that an A?
That was an A.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. All right. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for item number H 2021-0097, and we will begin with staff report.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Next item on the agenda this evening is the Pine 43 Pad G conditional use permit. The site consists of 5.31 acres of land. It's currently zone CG, and it's located at 1492 North Webway. This property was pre-platted and development agreement modification was approved in 2017. So this site has not been formally final platted yet, but it is part of the Pine 43 pre-plat. And staff has not received a final plat to create this particular parcel. By that not being completed, the applicant would be required to develop the entire 5-acre site for this building to be constructed on it. I would mention to the commission that we have approved what's called a staff level certificate of zoning compliance and design review for one of the retail buildings on this site already. It's currently under construction. So the applicant's aware of those conditions and proceeding with those as such forth as stated in the staff report. As you can see here, this project is part of a larger mixed use community designated area. This small commercial area was anticipated to support the residential that's occurring in the area.
Bill, can you share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Joe had that shared for you. You know what they say when you assume things. That better for you?
Much. Thank you.
I thought you could read my mind. We've been working together so long. Perfect. Everything else clear now? So there's the mixed use area that I was talking to you about. And again, this is just what the applicant's proposing this evening is consistent with the concept plan tied to that development agreement. So here's that one pad site. It's in the southwest corner of that 5.3 acre site. Again, the pad site to the north of this is under construction along with those frontage improvements and the associated parking. So As staff pointed out in the staff report, they need a final plat if they just want to develop this single parcel, but because they haven't final platted, and because we've already approved all of the site work under a certificate of zoning compliance, the applicant's basically complying with the conditions of this particular conditional use permit. Again, the reason why we're here for a conditional use is because the associated drive-through is within 300 feet of a residential district. So currently Pine 43 apartment phase 2, which is zone R40, is directly to the south of this. The only thing that's separating it is a commercial drive aisle along the south boundary. And that's the purpose of why we're here tonight, is the code requires you to take access on that. Staff did note in the staff report that the associated drive-through does comply with all the specific use standards. Really, it's minor modifications. The applicant has agreed to putting up a 6-foot solid wall along the landscape buffer here along the south boundary to help mitigate some of the noise to the adjacent residential. And that'll be reviewed and verified at the time they modify their certificate of zoning compliance for this particular site. You'll also note here that there's access points have been approved for this development as well. There's one here north of it, and then again, a shared drive aisle with the multifamily to the south and the commercial to the north here. As part of the overall Pine 43 development, the applicant was required to provide cross access for this development. So they'll have to provide evidence of that prior to getting occupancy of this particular development. Because this site does abut a residential district, the code does restrict the hours of operation from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And the applicants agreed to those conditions as well. So they're meeting code as far as hours of operation. I would mention to you that this is for the commercial building is a multi-tenant building, approximately 9,800 square feet, and the drive-through tenant will be a restaurant use. I know Mr. Casanelli's not here tonight, and he's a proponent of parking. Staff analyzed the parking as part of the staff report because the restaurant use is going into the space. The code requires 1 stall for every 250 square feet of gross floor area. Staff has done the analysis based on that ratio, and it appears there's 48 parking stalls to accommodate that use, including additional uses that may go into this development. So if you look in the lower corner, southwest corner of this site plan, you can see the keynote, or basically a vicinity map, and you can see how there's shared parking and there will be additional parking and commercial buildings on this particular property. Here's the landscape plan. Applicants required to provide a 20-foot buffer along North Webb Way, which is occurring as I mentioned to you, and then also a landscape buffer is required adjacent to residential uses, which has also been addressed in the staff report. Applicant has provided conceptual elevations. As part of the DA for this project, the applicant was required to have elevations that was complementary to the residential that was occurring. So it was supposed to be a consistent development theme throughout the Pine 43 development. This architecture that they are proposing is similar to the existing building that's under construction currently and reviewed with the previous certificate of zoning compliance. I've had a chance to look at the public record. There has been no public testimony on this particular application. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions in the staff report. And with that, I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Bill. At this time, will the applicant like to come forward? Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yep, my name is Mandy Baroza with CSHQA, 200 Broad Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. Good evening. Pressure's off since everyone left. Got the microphone at the right height. So thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. We are here to present the PAD G multi-tenant retail. Right now, it's only one drive-through, unlike some of the other ones you've seen that I've tried to put multiple drive-throughs in one, but it's just one. We are doing a very dense landscape buffer between us and the residents to the south. And then all of the residents' windows actually face east-west. So the wall, all the landscaping will hopefully help buffer any kind of traffic that we have going through that site.
Okay.
And design review and CZC will be able to develop the elevations and anything else you guys want to see.
Okay. Any questions for the applicants or staff?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Archer, go ahead.
the building is going to have multiple businesses in it. Which which way does the front door face? On Webb Way? Is that
It'll
like where
face
the front,
north towards Fairview.
where's Fairview? But there's a building in front of it, correct?
It's along the hard corner of North Webb and Fairview. And so there's shared parking between the two, and that building on the corner actually faces south inwards towards, so these buildings face each other.
Okay, so there'd be a sight line from Fairview to be able to see your businesses and what their signs are?
Yeah, one of the access points that actually wasn't addressed is that right there, that is directly off of Fairview.
And that's an access point to be able to get into this commercial area? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mandy, I've got a question for you here. I'm looking at the site plan here. I'm seeing that the drive aisle that's going around onto the, looks like from the west side, and then it comes around to the back side of the building. Is that correct? That's how I'm understanding it, right? And that looks like it's a drive aisle like for drive-throughs for any sort of retail or commerce or food or anything like that. Is that access for? Is that what I'm understanding?
Technically, that's just for the drive-through.
Okay, okay. So is that, but that's not like a loading area or anything like this. This is actually for like retail pickup, kind of things like that, like a drive-through, correct? So you could actually have, because there's multiple spaces in this building or multiple retail, you could have multiple windows delivering off this backside. Is that the way you're seeing it or not?
We're seeing it as the one drive-through for the restaurant tenants. And then
Okay.
anybody else who would have to use that back rear loading would be parking not in that drive aisle.
Okay, okay. And where would that, what would that look like with them not being in that drive aisle and having access for loading on the rear?
So not actually knowing what the tenants are going to be for this space. Hopefully deliveries are happening during, regular business hours. They do have that drive aisle directly to the east. It is wide enough and we could possibly make it a little bit
Okay.
wider if we needed to for
Okay.
them to stop a truck, unload, get to the back of the spaces, or provide front entry loading.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Right ahead.
man, I think you missed your mark. I would have gone for 2 drive-throughs in this.
I've already
Saying,
done
I think
that.
this is prime for a lot of restaurant space, but given the commercial behind you, but, so that was my only comment.
Right.
There's still time.
All right, any other questions for applicant or staff? No? All right, at this point, we'll take public testimony if anybody signed up.
Mr. Chair, we do have one person signed in, Carissa Sinden. I do believe that name was, stated on the first one. So besides that, I don't see anybody online or signed up.
Okay. Anybody else in chambers? Okay, unless you have anything else to add. All right, thank you. Okay, at this point, I get a motion to close the public hearing for item number H 2021-0097.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for item number H 2021-0097. Whoever wants to jump in, go right ahead.
Second.
Second, then we got to vote on
Should we
it.
vote on it?
Oh. That's true. Yeah. So it has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for item number H 2021-0097. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now you can jump in. Seems like I've been talking a lot tonight.
It's only just begun.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley, go right ahead.
I think they've done a great job. I like the idea of the screen wall along the backside. I think that makes a lot of sense and will help for the residents to the south. So yeah, with this, like I said, I still think they should have went for another drive-through. And I'll stand at that.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Wheeler, go ahead.
I have a question with that. I'm going to kind of dovetail on what Commissioner Yearsley is talking about here and ask staff about that. If we were to make a motion, is there a way that we could include something like that, like including up to 2 different drive-through access points on the, or is that something that we're not able to do?
Yeah. I almost called you Madam Chair. Apologies, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Technically, this has been advertised for a single drive-through, so I wouldn't advise us to add another drive-through to your recommendation. Plus, we haven't had a chance to analyze that and do some of that analysis for you. Certainly, if the applicant wants to propose another drive-through on the site, it can come back at that time and they can take it up with the commission. But tonight, we're only acting on one, and that's what I would recommend we stay with.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Usually, go ahead.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to city council. No, actually, this one's we approve.
This is
This
for
one.
approval, correct?
Recommend approval of file number H 2021-0097 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 20th, 2022 with no modifications.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2021-0097. Did I say recommend to approve? Sorry. It has been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2021-0097 with no modifications. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Usually.
before we end this meeting, I just want to officially say that I really enjoyed working with Rhonda, both of my terms. So, and you will be missed. So, and I would recommend we let her with a tear in her eye get the last motion.
And I was,
I wouldn't have had one until you said that, but I learned everything I know from Mr. Yearsley. So,
we look forward to welcoming you back.
And Rhonda, I'm sorry, I'm not there in person.
yeah, I don't think this is a very good, stellar way to start off your term as vice chair, Commissioner Grove. Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favors, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.